my dad said. How can you be such a loser? I laughed and said he knew it better than me. Then he got angry and kicked me out. I left and cancelled all payments, and then Dad. I always knew my dad was selfish, but I didn't realize how deep it went until money got involved. Growing up, it was obvious that he saw himself as the king of the house. His word was final, his needs came first, and everyone else existed to serve his ego. My mother tolerated it for the most part, but she had her limits. My little sister, Emily, mostly stayed out of his way. And me? I was just the kid who needed to be reminded every day that I wasn't good enough. It didn't matter what I did. Straight as in high school? Just basic expectations. Got into college? Still a waste of time unless I studied what he wanted me to study. When I got my first job at 16, he joked that I would soon need the money to pay rent. I laughed it off at the time, not realizing he wasn't really joking. By the time I turned 20, I was still living at home and working a decent job in IT. I was saving up to move out, but the rent was ridiculous, and I figured staying a few more months would help me get a better place. My dad had other ideas. "You're making money now," he said one night out of the blue. "Time for you to start helping out." Helping out sounded reasonable, but he wasn't asking for anything small. He wanted me to take over the car loan, his car loan, for a car he was buying. Then it was groceries. Then part of Emily's tuition. At first I thought he was joking. When I realized he was deadly serious, I tried to reason with him. "This is your responsibility, not mine." His eyes narrowed. "You're living here for free, aren't you?" Mom spoke up for me. "Kevin is saving up. He's not going to pay for a car he didn't buy." That set him off. He started ranting about how ungrateful I was, how he raised me, how it was my turn to step up. I told him that I would help him with groceries, but I wouldn't pay his debt. That wasn't enough for him. From that day on, things got worse. The way he talked to me got nastier. He'd make comments at dinner, telling Emily that she should never be like me, that I was just a lazy kid with no ambition. Mom kept pushing back, but he wouldn't listen. Then came the night it all exploded. We were having dinner and out of nowhere he just sneered at me and said, "How can you be such a loser?" I put down my fork and looked at him. I could have argued, I could have defended myself, but instead I just smiled and said, "You know better than me." That hit a nerve. He slammed his hand down on the table and told me to get out of his house. Right now. Mom and Emily jumped in and said he was overreacting, that this was crazy. But he wasn't listening. I looked at them, then at him, and just nodded. Fine. I packed a bag, walked out the door, and before I even made it to my car, I made a decision. I canceled everything. The payments for the groceries? Gone. The tuition I had reluctantly agreed to help with? Gone. The loan? Not my problem. I knew it wouldn't be long before he realized what this meant. And when he did, things would get interesting. I expected my dad to be angry when he realized I wasn't paying for anything anymore. I didn't expect him to show up at my apartment 3 days later, banging on the door like a debt collector. I was barely settled in. The place was small, just a one-bedroom in an older building, but it was mine. No one telling me what to do, no one breathing down my neck. I was enjoying the silence when suddenly, boom, 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 he was outside. "Open the damn door, Kevin." I debated ignoring him, but he wasn't the type to leave quietly. So I cracked the door open just enough to see his face red, angry. "You think you're smart?" he barked. "Canceling everything? Your sister's tuition? The groceries? You let your family suffer?" I laughed. "You mean your bills? Your car loan? You live under my roof, you help out. That's how it works. I don't live under your roof anymore," I said and started to close the door. He pushed it open. Not all the way, but enough that I had to push back. For a second I thought he was actually going to step inside, but then, "Dad." I looked past him to see my mom and Emily standing in the hallway. They had followed him here. I expected Mom to be mad at me, maybe even try to guilt me into making things right, but she wasn't. She looked at him as if she had never seen him before. "What the hell are you doing?" she snapped. "You think you can just barge in here?" Dad turned to her, still angry. "You don't get it. He left us. He didn't leave us. You pushed him out. That shut him up." Emily walked over and shoved a stack of envelopes into his chest. "These are the bills," she said. "Since Kevin is the reason we're all suffering, we figured you'd want to take care of them." I looked at the envelopes. All addressed to my dad. The credit card bill, the car payment, even some overdue notices. They hadn't been paid in weeks. Mom crossed her arms. "You told us we didn't need Kevin. Prove it." For the first time, I saw something flicker in his face, hesitation, maybe even panic, but it was gone in a second. He scoffed, tossed the envelopes to the floor, and turned back to me. "You think this is funny?" I shrugged. "A little." His jaw clenched. "You'll regret this." I didn't say anything. Just let him storm off while Mom and Emily stood there watching him go. When he was finally gone, Mom let out a long breath. "I'm sorry, Kevin." Emily gave me a quick hug. "Dad's an idiot." I laughed. "I found that out a while ago." Mom looked at my apartment like she was seeing it for the first time. "Can we come in?" I stepped aside and let them in, realizing something I hadn't before. This wasn't just about me anymore. They were starting to see him for who he really was. I closed the door behind them, half expecting Mom to start asking me to fix things. To be the bigger person. To come home. But she didn't. She just stood there, looking around my small apartment like she was trying to process something. Emily flopped down on my couch like she had been here 100 times. "Nice place," she said. Mom sat down, too, and rubbed her temples. "Your father's losing it." I sat across from them. "He's always been like this," she sighed. "Yes. But it's different now. He's desperate." I frowned. "Why?" She hesitated. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She slid it across the table. I picked it up and unfolded it. A bank statement. My dad's balance, $346.12. I blinked. "What?" "He's broke," Mom said. "He's been broke for months. He took out loans he never told me about. Credit cards too." It hit me like a truck. He wasn't just mad that I stopped paying. He actually needed my money. Emily pulled out her phone and began scrolling. "It gets worse," she muttered, then turned the screen toward me. It was a listing. For our house. For sale. I stared at it. "No way." Mom nodded. "He put it up last week. Didn't even tell me." I sat back. My dad wasn't just selfish. He was sinking, and he didn't care who went down with him. Emily looked at Mom. "So, what now?" Mom didn't answer right away. She just stared at her hands as if trying to make a decision. Then she finally looked up at me. "I think I'm leaving him." I wasn't sure if I heard her right. "What?" "I've put up with a lot," she said. "Too much. But this? Selling the house, keeping secrets, treating you like trash. I'm done." Emily sat up. "Wait. Like actually leaving?" Mom nodded. I should have been relieved. Or happy. But mostly I just felt weird. Like it wasn't real. My mom, who had spent years defending my dad, making excuses for him, suddenly deciding to walk away? Emily turned to me. "We can stay here, right?" I blinked. "What?" "Well, the house is being sold, Mom is leaving, and I'm not staying with him. So..." She gestured around. I laughed, half in disbelief. "You're asking if you can move in with me?" Mom gave me a small smile. "Just for a little while. Until I figure things out." I looked between them, then down at my tiny apartment. It was not built for 3 people. But at the same time, I thought of my dad. Alone in that house, waiting for money that wasn't coming. and suddenly the idea of them staying didn't seem so bad. I grinned. I reserved the bed. I thought having Mom and Emily move in would be temporary. A couple of weeks, maybe a month. Just long enough for Mom to figure out her next steps. It took 2 days for me to realize I had seriously underestimated how messy things were about to get. First, my apartment was way too small. Emily took the couch, Mom had an air mattress in the corner, and my once quiet space now felt like a storage closet full of laundry and half-packed bags. But that was nothing compared to my dad's meltdown. At first, he tried to act like he was fine. Mom got a few angry texts about how she was overreacting and would come to her senses. Emily ignored his calls. I didn't hear from him at all. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd let it go. Then, on day 3, I came home from work to find Emily sitting on the kitchen counter, shaking a can of pepper spray. I froze. What the hell happened? Emily smirked. Dad happened? Mom sighed from the table. He showed up while you were gone. Apparently, Dad had come to the apartment, pounding on the door, demanding to talk. When Mom refused to let him in, he stood in the hallway for nearly 20 minutes, yelling about how she needed to quit this nonsense and come home where she belongs. A neighbor called the cops. By the time they got there, he was gone, but Emily had already decided she was going to be ready next time. I ran a hand down my face. This is insane. Mom just shook her head. He's panicking. He thought we'd come crawling back by now. She was right. For the first time in his life, my dad wasn't in control, and he had no idea how to handle it. And then, a few nights later, he showed up again. It was almost midnight. I had just turned off the TV when... boom, boom, boom. The banging was so loud the walls shook. I got up, heart already pounding, and checked the peephole. Dad. His face was red, eyes wild, reeking of whiskey. I cracked the door open with the chain lock still on. Go home. He tried to shove it open. Where's your mother? I pushed back against the door. She's asleep. He laughed, actually laughed, but it wasn't normal. It was bitter, slurred. Right. Asleep in my son's apartment like a stray dog. I gritted my teeth. You need to leave. Mom suddenly appeared behind me. Go home, David. For the first time, my dad actually looked scared. He stared at her, swaying slightly, like he didn't recognize her. Don't do this. His voice cracked. Mom's face didn't change. I already did. He let out a slow breath, then turned to me, his expression twisting into something uglier. You think you've won? I didn't answer. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. You'll regret this, he muttered. You'll come crawling back. You'll see. Then, just like that, he turned and walked away. I shut the door, locked it, and turned to Mom. You okay? She exhaled. I think that was the first time I ever told him no. Emily peeked out from the bedroom. So, he's gone. For now, I said. But something told me my dad wasn't done. Not even close. For a few days, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No calls. No texts. No surprise visits. Mom was cautious but relieved. Maybe he's finally giving up, she said one night while making tea in my tiny kitchen. I wasn't so sure. My dad wasn't the type to accept losing. He was the type to wait, to let you think you were safe before hitting where it hurt. And I was right. It started with my bank account. I woke up one morning, checked my balance, and nearly choked on my coffee. $0. I blinked. That wasn't possible. I scrolled through my transactions and found a transfer to my dad's account. All of it. My stomach dropped. I immediately called the bank. The rep put me on hold for what felt like forever before finally coming back. The transfer was authorized from a shared account, she said. What shared account? The one I had with my dad, from when I was 16. The one I had completely forgotten about. Turns out, I never removed his name. and he had just wiped me out. I hung up and stormed into the living room. "Mom, did you know I still had a joint account with Dad?" She frowned. "No. Why?" I told her what happened. Emily cursed. Mom's face went pale. "He's desperate," she said quietly. "He's trying to force you back." I grabbed my keys. "I'm going to his house." Mom stood up. "Kevin, I'm not asking. I'm telling." 15 minutes later, I was banging on his door. No answer. I banged again. "Open up, Dad!" Silence. Then footsteps. The door swung open, and there he was. Smirking. "Kevin," he said, like he was welcoming an old friend. "Did you finally come to your senses?" I pushed past him, stepping inside. "Give me my money back." He shut the door behind me. "It's already spent." I clenched my fists. "You stole from me." He shrugged. "I needed it. And technically it was our account." I took a slow breath. "Close it. Now." He chuckled. "Why would I do that? You might decide to help your family again." I wanted to punch him. I really did. Instead, I pulled out my phone. "I'm reporting this as fraud." That wiped the smirk off his face. "You wouldn't." I started dialing. He grabbed my arm. "Kevin, don't be stupid." I yanked away. "You should have thought of that before you stole from me." I pressed call. He didn't wait to hear the conversation. He shoved me toward the door, muttering, "Get out." I stumbled but caught myself. "You did this to yourself," I said. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. An hour later, my bank called. They flagged the transaction as unauthorized. Since I hadn't accessed the account in years, it was clear I hadn't approved it. The money was being reversed. I told Mom and Emily when I got back. Emily high-fived me. Mom just shook her head. "He's going to be furious." I shrugged. "Let him be." That night, I fell asleep thinking maybe, just maybe, this was the end of it. I was wrong. Because the next morning, I walked outside and found my car was gone. My dad had stolen my car. I stood in the empty parking space, my heart pounding. My car was gone. At first, I thought maybe it had been towed. But that didn't make sense. I had a valid parking permit, no tickets, and no reason for it to be removed. Then, a sick realization hit me. My dad. I pulled out my phone and checked my GPS tracking app. A few months ago, I had installed a tracker in my car after a coworker's car got stolen. I had almost forgotten about it. I opened the app and waited for it to load. Then I saw it. The car was parked in front of my dad's house. I exhaled sharply, my hands shaking with anger. He actually stole my car. I didn't hesitate, I called the cops. 911, what's your emergency? My father stole my car, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. It's in my name, registered to me. I have proof. And I know exactly where it is. The dispatcher asked for the details. I gave them everything. She told me an officer would be sent to check it out. Then I called Mom. Did Dad take my car? I asked as soon as she picked up. She hesitated. I don't know. I could tell she was lying. Mom, she sighed. He came home with it last night. I asked where he got it, and he said it didn't matter. I clenched my jaw. The cops are on their way. An hour later, I got a call from an officer. We've located your vehicle, he said. Your father is claiming it belongs to him. It doesn't, I said. It's in my name. I have the title. That's what we figured, the officer said. He won't hand over the keys, so we'll need a tow. But it's legally yours. I drove straight to my dad's house. When I got there, 2 cop cars were parked outside. My car was still in the driveway. My dad stood on the porch, arms crossed, furious. I didn't even look at him. I went straight to the officer. So, what now? We're towing it back to your apartment, she said. You'll get a spare key from the dealership, right? I nodded. That's when my dad spoke. You really called the cops on me? His voice was full of disgust. I turned to him. You stole my car. His face twisted. I borrowed it. You don't borrow something by sneaking into a parking lot and taking it without asking. He laughed. A short, bitter sound. You think you've won? I ignored him. But as I walked away, his voice rang out, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. I didn't respond. I just got in my car and drove away. But the next morning, I woke up with a decision already made. I wasn't just going to let this slide. I called my lawyer. I want to sue him. The lawsuit went to trial faster than I expected. My lawyer told me that since I had clear evidence, police reports, the GPS tracking, and even his own text messages where he admitted to taking the car, there was no way he'd win. My dad, of course, didn't see it that way. He walked into court acting like he was the victim, telling the judge that I was an ungrateful son trying to ruin his life. He claimed he had borrowed the car and had every right to use it because he was my father. His lawyer tried to argue that it was just a misunderstanding. The judge wasn't buying any of it. After reviewing the evidence, the ruling was completely in my favor. Not only did the court recognize that my dad had stolen my car, but since he had a history of financial manipulation, including the bank fraud I had reported earlier, the judge saw a pattern of behavior. And then came the sentence. 1 year of home confinement. He wasn't going to prison, but he also wasn't going anywhere. They slapped an ankle monitor on him, and he wasn't allowed to leave his property except for medical emergencies. I thought that was the funniest part. My dad, the man who always acted like he was the king of the world, was stuck. But the real kicker? My grandmother moved in with him. The court determined he needed supervision, and since he couldn't leave, my grandma, his own mother, volunteered to move in and keep an eye on him. I swear, when I heard that, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Meanwhile, my life got better. With the lawsuit money and my job savings, I finally did what I had wanted to do for months. I moved into a bigger apartment with Mom and Emily. A place that actually fit us. For the first time, I wanted to pay for things. Rent, groceries, even Emily's school fees, because this time, it wasn't about being forced. It was my choice. One night, we sat in our new living room, eating takeout on the couch, and Mom just looked at me. Thank you, Kevin. I shrugged. It's nothing. She shook her head. No. It's everything. Emily nudged me. You did good, Kev. I looked around at them, really looked, and realized something. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I wasn't just surviving. Update. So, things have been way better since we moved into the new place. Mom is happier, Emily is thriving in school, and I actually enjoy paying for things because I know it's going toward people who appreciate it. But here's something unexpected. My grandmother called me last night. At first, I thought she was going to scold me for what happened to my dad, but nope, she was laughing. Apparently, living with my dad has been a nightmare for him. She told me, Kevin, he's absolutely miserable. You should see him, pacing the yard like a caged animal. Then she added, and I make sure he follows every single rule. No sneaking out, no special exceptions. I even take the TV remote when he gets too mouthy. I almost choked from laughing. So yeah, my dad is basically under house arrest with his own mother as his warden. Karma really did its thing.
你们知道为什么我最近没有开播吗？因为我还没有学到新歌，所以我不敢开播。可是我最近有学了一首非常流行的，你们知道是什么歌的了哈？2个字。我可以先清唱几句吗？可以哦。哦，这是我刚刚去拍了造型的。